Hey, Alec Tackmann here again. Go and Practice Book 3. We're looking at inverted paradiddles, so this will be page 14 and 15. Now, inverted paradiddles, the definition of an inverted paradiddle is really anything that's going to have combinations of singles and doubles played in a steady sequence. The term inverted paradiddle on the drum set usually refers to the sticking pattern of right, left, left, right, and then the inverse of that. So we have right, left, right, and left, right, left. So just on the snare drum, it'll sound like this. And it's going to be important that when you play it, you're accenting the first and last, or so the first and fourth notes of that cycle. So that'd be the one and then the of the beat. So 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. You can hear that happen. And that's going to be what gives it a little bit of groove to it, as opposed to a standard paradiddle, which is. And that's still cool and useful, but the inverted paradiddle is just a little more rhythm in there. So that, you obviously want to practice that alone before we start messing with it on the drum set. But a good first example or idea to play around with is just taking these accents we're playing and throwing them onto the tom. So number 1 on page 14, we're just going to take the right hand accents and we're going to go to the floor tom with them. So we end up with this. And what we want here is that back and forth now between the floor tom and the snare. Go to number 2, we take the same thing or the same idea, and we're going to put the left hand accents now on the high tom. This one's a little trickier to move around, but you get a little more melody out of it, which is kind of cool. So number 2. That one, because you're moving so quickly, for me at least, you lose a little power on it, but you get this kind of cool. To me, this would be like a cool, almost like jazzy, free sounding thing. Especially again, with the snares off, this one could be pretty neat. But that one, I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't say, play that over and over for your fill. That wouldn't be a better one to probably mix in a longer train of thought. But number 3 is where it gets interesting. This is where you get into almost kind of like Buddy Rich sounding stuff where you're machine gunning it on the snare drum, but then we're going to the cymbals for some crashes. So we're going to take the idea from number 1, and we're going to hit the cymbal instead. It doesn't matter which cymbal you hit. And every time you hit the cymbal, we're going to put the bass drum with it. So slow motion, the pattern will just be this. And again, you want to keep that accent pattern happening there. Take number 3 again. We'll gradually speed it up here now. You can see in there, aside from flubbing it a little bit there for a second, it's really easy to mix this one with going to the floor tom or whatever. So that kind of breaks up the repetitiveness of this. But that's two pretty standard inverted paradiddle ideas. It's good for soloing, good for short little fills here and there. I think this stuff is a little bit hipper than always just getting stuck on playing single stroke roll stuff, right, left, right, left, right, left. This just has a little more flow to it. And if you can get really handy, again, the double strokes of this one happening on the inside, some of this, it's almost like you don't really need to be warmed up that much to play it well. As where single strokes, you might need a little more of that to get the speed going. This one's just like flow of the bounce, basically. So like a lot of the stuff on the other pages, it's good to keep, you're playing in the center of the snare drum. I'm going to sound like a broken record saying that on all these pages, but stay near the center of the snare drum. You want, again, an articulate sound, especially with your washy cymbals. Otherwise it's just going to sound like a giant drum roll with cymbals going at the same time. So, but anyway, that's numbers 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to skip to number 5 down here on the bottom of the page. This is taking that same idea, and then now we're going to make it to a 3-beat phrase. So instead of just having 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda being our repeated line, so this basically, and slamming that over and over, we're going to put in the middle of that just right, left, single stroke roll. So our total sequence now is just going to be 2 inverted paradiddles and 1 right, left. So 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda is what we're dealing with. Now transitioning from paradiddles to single strokes seamlessly is really challenging to do. I find the best way to practice this, obviously aside from practicing on actual drums, is to practice it on some sort of like gel practice pad, or you can do pillows, you can do like folded up towel, you can even practice on your leg. You want something that doesn't bounce. So if you can do doubles, paradiddles, singles without hearing a hiccup in there, that's going to make a huge difference in this one. So number 5, page 14, here it is, just slowly. And I like to have those 4 inside strokes, the single strokes, have them be really loud, really strong, even make them a rim shot if you can. I put some rooftop accents over them in the book, but those ones, I like to have those be the big, happening in the center. So if we go number 5, I'll start slow, gradually speed it up. And that's pretty much it. So we get that 3/4 phrase going. You can carry that over the bar line as much as you want. You just got to keep track of where you are in the beat. If you jump to the next page, number 1 on page 15, same idea. We're just taking those inside 4 strokes and moving them to different parts. The kit. You want different toms. It doesn't have to be all 4 on this one. In number 15, we change it to snare, snare, floor tom, floor tom. But yeah, a cool little lick. Actually, this is I saw this lick in it's the Buddy Rich Memorial Concert with Dennis Chambers, I believe. I believe it's that one of him doing it, and he's doing basically the same lick, but he's hitting like a China cymbal way over here for it. Yeah, it's one of the few licks of his that you can actually hear it and possibly transcribe it. But let's see, the rest of page 15 is pretty self-explanatory. The bottom 3 on the page, number 3, 4, and 5, those just have to do with moving just one of them away from the drum. So we're putting one away from the snare drum. So we're putting a hard accent on the of the beat on another surface. So what you want to do there is make sure you're really hammering 2 and 4 pretty good with the snare drum, so we have a backbeat to follow it. So like, for example, Number 3 is going to be. Same thing happening on number 4. We're just going to go to the cymbal. Number 5 is just sneak a little hi-hat bark in there. So anyway, there's a few inverted paradiddle ideas. You know, it's obviously super fast, kind of shreddy sounding stuff. So be careful where you're using this one. If you're throwing this in someone else's song, if it's not a drum solo moment, this is probably going to be the type of fills that aren't going to support like a singer-songwriter very well. So, you know, obviously be careful. But if you're any kind of like jazz fusion setting, if you're in rock shred mode or whatever, it can be cool stuff to bust out every once in a while. So anyway, if you haven't picked up the book, check it out. Go and Practice Book 3. It's on Amazon. If you got any questions, let me know. Send me a note. But thanks for checking it out, and happy practicing.